Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of FathersFyre. My name's Jody Sedrick, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And it's been a minute since I've been able to wrangle the men together. So I got three of the four: Shawnee the kid, Antoine Browne, and Mike Lewis. He had some lame excuse of his daughter having a 20th birthday or something. I'm like, priorities. So how you men doing?
All right, go ahead, Anton.
Oh man, I'm been doing great, man. That sounds like Mike. Always some lame excuse, but that's all right. We'll let him slide this time. Yeah.
We'll let him slide. Well, it's been really fun. We have to give congratulations and kudos to Antoine. If you're not connected with him, or even if you are connected with him on Facebook and TikTok, he's recently received a pastorship down in Florida. Him and his wife are down there. So congratulations. Excited to see what you and your wife and the men that you're called to serve with get to do together. So congrats.
Yeah, man. It's we're not too far from your old neck of the woods, Jody.
Oh yeah, where you at?
Yeah, we're did you go to Pine Forest?
Yeah, I went to Pine Forest High School. That's where I graduated.
Yeah, we're not too far from that. Well, kind of off of Pine Forest Road in that area.
You're right there.
We're right there, man. Mobile Highway.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, that is so cool. I've been wanting to get back to Pensacola. I've never been back since I graduated.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I got to get back. Judy and I've talked about going, Pensacola Beach, Fort Walton Beach, Destin, all that area. The problem is if we go back, we'll probably want to move there. So
well, hey, you got a friend here if you do that, man.
Yeah, I do have a friend there. So, and Shawnee and I had a really good conversation a couple days ago on TikTok. And I always love talking to you guys. And I've been thinking a lot about a conversation that I had a couple weeks ago. I was invited to be on Sean Hart's podcast with Cole Speaks. They have a podcast called The Father's Heart. And something that Cole said really, really struck me. And I've told him that I want to go in deeper with him on this. But, he at a very young age did not have a father figure, as early as 7. He's trying to figure it out. And so my question that I've been thinking about is, how do men who did not have a good father figure in their home, how do they become good fathers themselves when they didn't have somebody to pattern their life after? And what recommendations would we as men who are trying to be good fathers would we have for them? So that's kind of the genesis in my thought this morning, because I think there are a lot of men that struggle because they're trying to be good fathers and they're not quite sure if they're doing it right.
Yeah. Shawnee?
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? So I have a really good friend who is like a brother who I tried to model my family off of his family because he comes from a really good family. Dad spent a lot of time with him, teaching him stuff as he grew up, taught him how to do different kinds of work. The kid knows how to do like all kinds of stuff because of his dad. And I see guys like him that are successful in life, like that they just know what to do. Like he knows exactly how to handle his family. He knows how to handle his wife. He had a good model to go off of as a kid coming from a good family. And then I have other friends. Like I have a friend, his name is Seth, and he is a really hard worker, has the ability to be like just a champion at everything he does. But the problem is no dad growing up at all. And he doesn't have the confidence to do simple things or put his mind to things because he never had a dad to show him. And it's real obvious it's because of his lack of a dad that kind of makes it that way. And I think Seth recently had a baby, and he has a really, good family, good wife. The girl that he married already had a 5-year-old, and he was like dad as he came into the relationship. And what I noticed is that, like, for him, like, if he wants to be a good dad, he has to want it. Number one, and he has to, like, you have to be willing to take advice, and you have to be willing to listen to other people and stuff. And like, I can sort of relate to that. Like, I had a pretty good dad and stuff, but he was in and out of my life, and my family life was really messed up, and I wanted to have a good family growing up, and I really didn't honestly know what that looks like. So I think, you got to kind of ask a lot of questions and be open to changing your lifestyle or changing the way you are, or maybe paying attention, and it all comes down to like really wanting to be a good dad. I mean, do you want to be a good dad more than you want to, like, have the latest fashions? I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's a lot to it, I guess. But
Well, I specifically want to ask you, Sean, because I knew, your background was kind of tenuous at times with your dad. And, I love that you said it's got to start with you wanting to change the cycle. But what did you specifically discover or do that helped you create the family that you have today? Because I see the relationship with your wife, and it's been hard earned, right? But what are some specific things that you did to achieve that goal?
well, when you see things that are a complete and total wreck, for me, I'm like, I will never be like that. I will not have that for my kids. And so I know that's kind of negative, but
No.
I did not want my kids to live the way I did. When I was a kid, I moved probably 30, 40 times as a child, from the time I was born till I was like out of high school, between family members, foster care, like all over the place. And I never really had a home. And that really crippled me. I didn't realize how messed up I was until I was older, from not having really any stability. And I told my wife, like, when we got married before we got pregnant, and I was like, if we have a kid, we're not moving. My daughter's 15. We've lived in this house for 16 years. And we're not going anywhere. I'm not planning on going anywhere. And I know that's kind of ridiculous, but I just don't want that for my kids. I want them to have a home, and I think saying I will never be like that was a big drive, to try to, I don't know, to do things right. And plus, our relationship with God is a huge, huge thing. And with that, that's a whole different part of it too. But I think for me, like, and I tell people this, part of my testimony is like, when my daughter was born, I cried like a baby when she was born. And it just, something in it was like, if there is heaven, I want my kid to go there. And I just had this drive to learn about God and stuff. And I feel like that passion to save my daughter, or to like be the best dad I could be for my kid, really drove me to kind of want to know more and do more as a dad. And I still got a lot to work on, but I come a long ways from, being a knucklehead. Anyway.
Antoine?
Wow, it's interesting because my situation is definitely different. My father was there. I mean, from the beginning. I mean, I cannot complain. And and I'm not trying to brag when I say that. It's a blessing to have come up in that kind of situation. He was a good protector, a good provider, everything that I needed. Was he perfect? No. He made some mistakes. I made some mistakes as a father myself. But I think that the thing for me was I couldn't imagine not being there for my kids. I couldn't, and growing up in the environment that I grew up in, when I say environment, I mean, my father was a pastor from the time I was 4 years old. And so I was constantly exposed to families who were broken. Most of my friends growing up were kids who were from a broken home. Father wasn't involved. Father wasn't in the home, and so from that standpoint, I got to experience it outside looking in. But a lot of these kids, I spent the night at their house, so it was a totally different dynamic. Growing up with only mom there taking care of everything. And I remember even growing up as a kid thinking to myself, I didn't know any better. Like, hey man, where's your dad? I've been looking for your dad. Where's he at? Because from where I come from, dad is there. So I'm like, where's your dad? And to hear a kid say, I don't know, I don't know, or I've never even seen him before. That was like, whoa. What do you mean you've never seen your father? That was a foreign concept to me, that a person could not even know who their dad is. And so when I think about that, and then you fast forward years later, that kid grows up and they have a family. How do they know what to do? How do they know how to be a father when they didn't have one there, when they didn't even know who their father was? All they had was the fathers that they saw in the neighborhood who were there, who did their best to try to help them out. And so, man, my thing is this: as good as my father was to me, as great of a dad as I had, there's no book that's available that tells you exactly how to raise your child and come out with perfect results every time. There's no book. The closest thing you can come is the Bible, but then you got to know how to interpret that. You need a pastor. You need somebody who you can go to help you interpret what the Word of God says, particularly for your children. But the thing that hit me, and I'm drawing a blank, y'all. I've been kind of busy with a lot of stuff lately, but I'm drawing a blank. But there's a scripture, and I believe it's in Proverbs, and it says that the seed of the righteous shall be delivered, or the seed of the righteous shall be saved, depending on what version of scripture you look at. So as great as my father was for me, as great as a provider and protector and all that stuff that he was for me, my greatest teacher was God in terms of how to parent my children. My greatest teacher was God, and what he provides for us in order to be able to navigate through life as a father, as a mother, whatever you are, whatever your assignment is. And that scripture really hit me. The seed of the righteous shall be saved, or shall be delivered. And what that says to me, a lot of I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, the seed of the righteous shall be saved. If as long as you were righteous, your children will be okay. And I don't believe that it's a statement of, if you were ever righteous, your children will be saved. I really believe that it's a state of mind that has to be constant. If I'm righteous, then my children have a fighting chance in this world of being everything that God has designed them to be. Yeah. Because what I'm able to do is show forth an example of what righteousness is. So they're going to go and do their thing. They're going to make their mistakes. They're going to fall in their face. But as long as I'm that righteous person in their presence, and as long as they have some example of righteousness to look to, they can say, you know what, my dad never seems to just, he always seems to be unshaken. I mean, yeah, he cries sometimes, sometimes I see him, huddled up in a little ball, but he's always able to come out of that thing and stand up and be strong and be the firm person he's supposed to be, the foundation of peace for our family. And as long as I'm able to keep showing that, then I know that my children are going to be okay. And so, that's the thing that I would say, man, because even with a good example, I still didn't know how to be a good father, because I can't do it the way my father did it, because my kids are not me. You know, what worked for me may not work for my kids. I mean, I got 3 kids, and my techniques are different for each child. You know, you can't be the same for this one as you were with that one and expect to get the same results. And it requires a real intense focus on who that child is and not just who your children.
Yeah, you know, I love that perspective. And the reason why is, you know, Judy and I had 4 kids, and I felt like I was a really, really good dad, right? And I had a father like you that was very prominent in our life, set a really good example. He had his flaws. He admitted his flaws. He said he was sorry. He put his arms around me and told me, I love you. You know, I had the blessing of having that dad in my home. And so I felt like I had a good running start at being a good father. And I kind of, admittedly, I will say I kind of was a little prideful in that I was striving to be a good father. And then we adopted kids. And dude, you talk about having no manual, no instructions on how to deal with hurt children. Dude, my world, my vision of me as a father was completely shattered because the way that I had been parenting my children to that day was not sufficient and was not going to work for my 2 new children into our home. And I had to step back and go, whoa, 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 what just happened to our family? But more importantly, what do I need to become as a father? Because what I am up to date is not working, right? And I had the foundation with our biological children to raise them from the moment they were born. And so we had this attachment that was built and ingrained into our family. And then we're bringing children into our home at 8 and 9. And all of a sudden, I don't have that attachment. They don't have any foundation for having a relationship with me. And so it made me go, all right, what do I need to change? What do I need to become? And the way that I had always parented was not working because I had to realize that these children that God had blessed our family with had broken hearts. They had broken minds and spirits. And so I had to meet them in a place of broken. And I had to learn how to parent them. I had to learn how to earn their trust. And it was a challenge, and it has been a challenge. And it has been the most raw, challenging experience that I've ever gone through. It has revealed to me in the brightest bright day of light that Jody has flaws. Big glaring ones, right? And it took having broken children in our home to go, you know what? You were a good dad, but you're not. You need to become more for these children. And what I had to recognize that what I was doing before wasn't sufficient. And there were a lot of times where the way that I had done things in the past, the Spirit would whisper to me and like, that is not right. And my initial reaction, my initial response would have been to, you know, be more disciplinarian. And man, I'm telling you, a lot of times it just, you know, I would get these impressions to step back, be a little gentler, be a little bit more patient, understand that they're reacting not out of a place of rebellion, but they're acting out of a place of hurt and of insecurity. And I had to build a foundation of trust that could then build a bridge to having a relationship filled with love.
And you know what, man, I think that, you know, I hear what you're saying when you said you don't believe you were sufficient. And I think that the thing that separates you know, and I'm gonna say it this way: a good father from a maybe not so good father is your desire to invest in your children. And when you think about what an investment is, you know, you invest in stock market mutual funds. In order to get something out of those stocks or out of that mutual fund, you got to put something in it. If you don't put anything in it, you're not going to get anything back. And a lot of times what we're looking to do is get something out of our children without putting something in them. And you got to know what to put in them in order to get the right return. And so even with the stock market, you got to know exactly what you need to put into it to get what you want to get out of it. And so I think that's what a good father does. A good father is able to look at their child individually, you know, not collectively, because they're different. You know, you got to be able to look in your child and say, okay, what does this child need from me? I'm trying to get respect out of this child, but they may need to see what respect looks like. So
exactly.
I may need to respect them. I'm trying to get love out of them, but they don't know what love looks like. So I got to put love into them. They yes. You know, they're trying to, you know what I mean? We're trying to pull something out of them without showing them what it looks like. And so I think that's what you did, man, in that situation. And I got a similar situation where I had to take my grandkids in because of a situation with my daughter. We lost our youngest grandchild, passed away at 9 months old, roughly 9 months old, I think. And so she had two other children, and it kind of forced us to have to take those children for, I think, a period of almost 2 years. And I'm like, you know, wow, you know, this is just when you know, your youngest child is going into high school and you're moving along now. Okay, we're getting closer to that empty nest, and then you get these two little grandkids, and they require so much. And it's just like you. My first thing was, okay, they lack discipline. That's the problem. They lack discipline. And then I'm glad I caught it early enough, because what I realized they lacked is love.
Yes. They
lack love. And in order to get them to show love, I needed to be able to show them what love looked like. And I think that's the thing, you know. So, you know, I think about those guys who may be watching or may be looking at this, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to be a father, you know, because they didn't have an example. I believe that Jesus Christ, even though he didn't have any children, is the greatest example that we have from the scripture. But I also believe that he'll show us examples that are natural, that are close to us. You know, we look for mentors in every aspect of life. I want to be a billionaire, so I'm going to look at Elon Musk. I'm going to read his books. I'm going to study what he does. But there are some fathers out there who are doing it right. There are some fathers out there who understand in principle how to father children. You know, you don't necessarily do the same methods that they do, but the principles are eternal and they work in every situation.
Yeah, one of the things that really helped me was I needed to put myself in the same situation as my child. Yeah. And I'll give you the perfect example of, and I share this in my book, Learn to Dance with the Currents of Life When You Feel Like You're Drowning. My family, as you guys know, we are big water people, right? Mm-hmm. And my kids were so excited, and I, as a dad, was so excited to teach these kids how to wakeboard and wake surf. And I will never forget the first time that we got out on the lake. We're in the middle of the lake, the shore's, 200, 300 yards away. And it's time for Cynthia, for her time to learn how to wakeboard, right? And so she is deathly afraid. And I'm like, it's okay, you can get in the water. And she's like, no. And so I ended up going into the water first. And I'm sitting there in my life jacket and I'm reaching up with my hand and I'm like, I got you, hold my hand, right? And so I gently coaxed her, pulled her into the water and got her. And she immediately just, wrapped her arms around me and like almost choking me, right? And I'm like, I'm talking to her really soft. And I'm like, all right, just calm down. I'm right here with you, right? And, slowing down and being in that situation with her was kind of the launching point for, building this understanding of what I needed to do to win her trust and her love And it didn't come overnight. I mean, it took years and years and years of consistently putting myself in a situation where we could grow together, and me being humble enough to go, you know what, I need to do something different. And I realized at that moment that I have to do a better job of putting myself and my heart in the same place where they are, so that we can then move forward on a path of love and trust.
Yeah.
Shawnee?
Awesome, man. I'm just taking it in, man. You got grandbabies and stuff. It's a while for me for that, but I want to say, you know, I think one thing I noticed with my family, and I can attest to I only have 2 kids, but my relationship with them is totally different. The way I discipline each one of them is totally different. The way that we spend time together is different, you know, but like Anton said, the principles are kind of the same. And I think, like you said, the Holy Spirit kind of has to lead you step by step. That's kind of how I parent. I feel like, you know, I really look for those moments to spend with my daughter, especially because she's older. We only got 3 more summers in the house. Hopefully not, but that scares me, man. But it's like, you know, I feel like I have a much more intricate and slowed down relationship with my daughter than my son. My son is a lot of high energy, and he's very, you know, he likes to do stuff hands on all the time. My daughter's different, so our relationship is really different. But yeah, when I listen to you guys, I try to take it all in, man.
well, and I love that we can have such open dialogue, right? Because I think a lot of times men are looking for answers, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we're not even sure what question to ask. Yeah. I mean, it's like, how do I deal with this, right? And especially, you know, as we brought our 2 new kiddos into our home, I had no blueprint. I had absolutely no blueprint. Yeah. And I had to, and my wife was always reminding me, she just like, take a breath and listen to your inner voice. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I know it's going to be counter to what you want to do, but it's going to be the right action for your child. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn how to step back, slow down, quit being so demanding of respect and results and all this stuff, and focus on just building love between us. And I think a lot of men struggle in being a dad because they're worrying about the mechanics instead of building love and building an environment that fosters love.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it you know, when you live your life like that, where it's based on the mechanics, you're not always present in the moments. You know, you're still thinking about, okay, well, this could have went better if we had done this way. If that done, you know, the problem with this is this was out of alignment, this was out of place, and you miss those moments. You know, you miss the moments. But when you're able to just be there, and like you said, just be about the love aspect of it, the giving aspect of it. I mean, men are really naturally supposed to be givers anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what God designed us to be. We're givers. And so, but I think we lose sight of that because unfortunately, when we look at society and the way things are, so much has been taken away from boys growing up. And so it kind of creates this, I got to get mine. I got to get what I can get when I can get it. And we forget that we're actually designed to be givers. Yeah. And so, and when you get your, when you can wrap your head around who you really are, who God designed you to be, it just makes for a whole lot more peace in your life. I found that when I realized that I'm supposed to give to my children, give to my wife, and what I get in return is always so much more than what I've actually given. But as long as I'm just trying to get, and make sure this is right, make sure that's right, make sure the discipline is there, make sure this, discipline first, and then okay, you do what you're supposed to do, you get a treat. Well, what if I show you how to get a treat? What if I show you what if I show you the reward first? You want more of that? I can show you how to get it. But we get things so out of whack and so out of alignment because of the way society almost pushes things. And so I think it's important, man. Everything you said, man, Jody, everything you said, Shawnee, man, it's just so key, man. I think that, I wish we had more men watching this, because I think that the biggest thing that we can really take away from this is the fact that I gotta be able to lay down my life, which means not necessarily I gotta die, but I gotta kill some of those impulses.
Yeah.
I gotta kill some of those thoughts, some of the things that I think needs to happen. And a lot of times we try to raise kids based on how we were raised.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. Well, Shawnee, I see you chomping at the bit to share something. So
yeah, I just want to say, man, I've been, working on my marriage. I've been reading the Bible about marriage, learning who I am in God, and trying to, be a good dad and be obedient to God by serving my family. And what he just said is amazing, because it's so, so true that men are supposed to be providers. And I was recently talking to a buddy of mine who's going to be a pastor, and he said that at his church, they treat the ladies very gentlemanly. They open the doors for them. They're very kind to them. They're his pastor is very big on marriage and treating your wife right, and they hold each other accountable to their marriages and things like that. And he believes that that's how it should be everywhere. And, I feel like one of the things that, his name's BJ, one of the things that he said to me stuck with me ever since, and it's been like a few months since he said this. And he said, in the Bible, it says that a husband and wife are to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And in that, right after that, it says that the wife submits to the husband, and the husband is to serve his wife or give his life up for his wife in the same way that Christ gave himself up for the church. And she's supposed to kind of honor him as the Lord. Talked about that whole passage. And he was saying, like, when she submits to her husband, she's actually submitting to the Lord and submitting to her faith in him, that he's going to serve the Lord in that way and give his life up for her. And the crazy part of the conversation that stuck with me is that if Jesus gave himself up for us, for the church, he has done way more for us than we could ever do for him. And in the same way, we need to be givers like that to our wife. And what he's saying is so true. If you're a dad, it's your position to give all the time. It's your call as a man to be the giver. And I think that is so powerful and easy to understand. It's just awesome. And it fits with, I've been on this kick for a few months now since I heard that passage and had that conversation. I had this guy come on my live session. He was really, really insightful about that. And I just never quite heard it like that before. And I think that a lot of guys get frustrated. They want to they want to ease their mind. They just worked all day, so they want to go into I want to do what I want to do, and I should be able to do it zone, all the time. And there's a lot of dads that they feel it's their right to just shut down when they get home because they work. And all of us, I have a physical labor job. My wife lets me chill, don't get me wrong, but it can't be all the time. You can't go on vacation every night when you get home from work while you're working. It doesn't spiritually work. It just doesn't connect. It's not right. And the guy knows it's not right, but sometimes we get caught up in that. But yeah, I love that. I absolutely.
Yeah. I love the word that Antoine used, that we as dads need to be givers. right? I think a lot of times we as men walk around with this air of, you need to respect me because I'm the dad, I'm the breadwinner, instead of going, you know what, you are my child. I love you, and I'm going to give you of my time, my energy, my heart. I'm going to do everything to make you feel that I love you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men, that have come from, broken homes, they're like, I don't know how to be a good dad. And I would just say, look, just learn how to give to your kids. Just learn how to love your kids. Learn how to emulate the greatest of all examples that we have of service in the man and the Savior, right?
Yeah.
And when we turn our heart to giving and love, the things that we're expecting of discipline and respect are a natural fruit of that love that we've already given.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good, man. I'm looking at one of the comments. My brother Joseph Walton, he's out of Atlanta. He's one of my best friends, actually. I had to say that on air so he'll know, because he'll hook me up every now and then. But he says something there that the father is a calling, and I like that because it's a ministry. It's an assignment. God has entrusted you with this child to raise and develop them into everything that they're supposed to become. And I think when you look at it that way, it really compels you to give. It compels you to make sure they have everything that they need, make sure that they're provided for, make sure that they feel safe, make sure that they understand some things. One of the things that my dad used to do when I was growing up is, and Jody, you were really talking about this giving thing, and it has got me worked up. One of the things that my father used to do when I was growing up is I would watch him do the laundry. I would watch him do the laundry. Now you go over some other people's houses, and I'm not going to say any names, just in case they're watching, but you go over some people's houses, and it's when the dad gets off work, he comes home, undoes his belt buckle, sits down in the lazy boy, basically puts his hand out like this for his wife to fix him a plate and put it on there. And eat and doesn't, you almost have to pry him away from that lazy boy in order for him to go to bed, because that's just pretty much where he camps out. No interaction with the wife, no interaction with the kids unless they run over to him and play with him and he's playing for a minute and they send them off. But like I said, seeing that from my dad, Alban, seeing that from my dad, it showed me a different assignment.
Yeah.
It showed me that maybe fathers have a different assignment than what some of us traditionally grew up in. He did the laundry. I did see my mom do laundry, but I saw him do the laundry. I saw my father wash the dishes, load the dishwasher. He taught me how to do it. He taught me how to load the dishwasher. He taught me how to fold clothes. I don't remember my mom teaching me how to fold clothes. I don't remember my mom teaching me how to wash dishes. My dad taught me how to vacuum the floor. We had plush carpet. He showed me, this is how when you got plush carpet, you got to see those lines, so he
got to see the lines. So got to see the pattern.
You don't see those lines, man. You didn't do it right. You didn't even do it at all. You don't see the lines. But my father showed me how to do those things. And so when I grew up, and now I got my own family, I'm in my home, there are certain things that I gravitate to. I do the laundry most of the time in our house. My wife does laundry too. My wife is great. She's awesome. She does a lot of things in our home. We've only been here in this house in Florida for a week, but if you come in here and look at it, she has done an amazing job. It's just, it's cool. Awesome. And so, but I come in here and I kind of plug back into, my assignment. But that's giving. That's giving, because by doing these things, my wife doesn't feel like it's her assignment to do these things. Yeah. And see, Shawnee, you brought up that scripture. Submit we're supposed to submit to each other. Submit to each other means that we're both supposed to bring something to the table. That's what it
Amen to
means.
that.
When you
Amen to
got
that.
an army, and you go to the general. General goes to the sergeant. He says, "Sergeant, what do you have?" He needs him to submit what he has. What do you have? Bring your intelligence. Bring your innovation. You have something of value to bring to the table that's going to help us succeed. Well, my wife has something of value that she brings to the table to help our family succeed. I have something of value. So when we're submitting, that's not, hey, you submit to me. You fix my plate.
No.
You know, you wash my underwear. You know, you do all these, you know, that's not submission. Submission is she has something of value to bring to the table. And our children need to see both of us submit.
Yes.
If our children see both of us submit as they're growing up, they'll understand, okay, this is not just you do everything, you do all of this stuff, you do all of that stuff. This is a team effort. We both bring something to the table.
Yeah, I love this comment. I can't see who made the comment, but it's hard to submit to someone that is not behaving submittable, if that's a word. And I love that because it goes to what you're saying, right? It takes both of us to submit to each other, right? We both, you know, Sean and I talk about this a lot. When you first were dating, you were doing everything to give of yourself to each other. And that pattern needs to continue in your relationship as you move forward. And the nice thing is that as you have children and you're entrusted with children, you're giving more opportunity to give of yourself and discover your true character. And sometimes your true character has some flaws. And we need to, you know, break off some of those rough edges and become a honed shaft that can be used in a way that uplifts and gives hope and makes our children feel loved. And I just want to thank you guys so much for I hate to cut this off, but I've promised my wife that I would go spend some time with her this evening. And so I just want to thank you guys so much. And I love what you said, Antoine. You said, I wish more men were watching this. And so I would ask both you and those that have tuned in, please share this episode and share the other episodes, because I love having this dialogue, because it helps me be a better father, better man. And, you know, I love your insight, your testimonies, your strength, your friendship, your brotherhood. And, you know, if we can be brothers together, it is going to ripple across our families and affect generations. And that's really what the hope is, right? Is that we can affect our children, our grandchildren, and that our legacy will ripple across. They may not necessarily remember our name, but they will feel the impact of the legacy that we've built. So.
You know, Jody, I know you got to go, but I had a closing thought for that guy that asked that question. What do you do if the person that, you know, is not the word submittable, if they're not acting right, they're not doing their part, they're not submitting. If you look at it from a team standpoint, we're in this together, we're on a team. Sometimes you're going to have somebody on the team that doesn't understand, and maybe they're not seeing you submit, you know, as you should. Because if you're looking at them, that's Sean Howard. If you're looking at them and you're wondering how come they're not playing their part, then you're not going to be giving 100% yourself. And you need to give 100%. But I looked at it like this: if you're on a boat or a ship and the boat is going down, and in order for us to get to where we need to get to, we both got to bail water out of this thing. If you stop bailing water out because they're not doing it, are you going to stop? No. No. Let's get to where we need to get to, and then let's talk about how we got there. Let's talk about how we got there.
I want to say something about his comment real quick, and then I'll roll. But I want to say, you know, I think that when it comes to a husband's role, a man's role in the marriage, and the you know, being a dad, you have to make a decision that you're going to try to do the right thing all the time, not based on if your wife doesn't act right. Because if your wife doesn't act right, and then you decide, well, you're not going to follow along with her then, and if you're the leader of the relationship spiritually, it's going to fail, because you have to commit to God that you're going to do the right thing all the time. And when your wife goes astray, or maybe you go astray, you kind of carry each other. Like if your wife's going through a rough time or something and you keep doing the right thing, she'll come back to you. And that kind of, it's like you said earlier with your kids, it's like investing, because if you make some mistakes or whatever, she'll be a lot more likely to forgive you if you've always done the right thing. So.
Yeah,
That's right.
No, I love that. Well, I want to thank you guys for such a great conversation. Obviously, we could keep going, but I want to express my what?
I think it's say congratulations to Anton. That's awesome. Where'd you move from?
Thanks, man.
Did you move from Chicago?
No, from Flint, Michigan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's gone down to the warm South. He's gone to the warm South. So, but
that's awesome.
Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much. I truly do love the conversation, but more importantly, I love you men. And yes, we miss Mike. He chimed in some comments in, but I just, it's nice to be surrounded by men who are striving to be better, right? Striving to tap into their God-given gifts and God-given responsibilities to be men in the home, to be fathers in the home, to walk side by side in love and unity with our wives. And dudes, if we can foster that, boy, the impact that will have not only on our family, but also in the community. And I just want to thank you guys. Those that are tuning in, please share this out. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time, same bat channel, just next episode right here on FathersFyre. See ya. Thanks, brothers.
All right. Thank you, man.